3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network. This is a Thursday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all of our great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. You can always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB. Got Stuart Kovacs, got Moist Mike, rocking and rolling with me all the way up until 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific today. Former Knicks guard Chris Childs is going to join us coming up at 5:20 p.m. Eastern, 2:20 p.m. Pacific today. I was in the building last night for Knicks and Pacers. What an exciting game. I was very impressed with the Pacers in the second quarter. And then the third quarter, even when the Pacers had a big lead, you saw the triumphant return of Jalen Brunson, who left the game. And I thought at first it was either a hand or a groin injury. Then it turns out to be a foot injury. There was some uncertainty if he was going to come back. OG Anunoby then leaves the game with the hamstring injury. And that's something to monitor because where I was sitting last night, I was able to hear a lot of what was going on the bench. And when OG Anunoby left to go into the locker room, he was screaming, "Oh, bleep, oh, bleep, oh, bleep." And I can't say the bleep part on the radio because then Stu or I, one of us, would probably get fired. So that's something to monitor there with OG Anunoby with the hamstring injury. But the Knicks come on back, led by Jalen Brunson, led by Dante DiVincenzo, and now they have a 2-0 series lead. And we'll get to the bitching and complaining by Indiana Pacers coach Rick Carlisle coming up a few moments from now. But let me start with that little college football today, because I was reading something, and it was via the Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine. TCU head coach Sonny Dykes, who is a football lifer, and we know 2 years ago he was in the national championship game, his first year as the head honcho at TCU, where they got obliterated by Georgia. But he was talking to the magazine, and he said there's got to be a split between the Power Four and the Group of Five eventually. There is just such a big difference right now between the haves and the have-nots, and I think we'll eventually split into two separate divisions. Alabama and Louisiana Tech aren't playing the same sport. So you may hear that and you may go, man, why is Sonny Dykes just throwing a stray and a big elbow to Louisiana Tech? He did coach there, so I think that was just okay with his background, and now he's in a have school and he's been in a have-not school before, that's why he threw out Louisiana Tech. He also said those jobs, when talking about the Group of Five jobs, are even harder now because if one of your players has a great season, he's probably getting plucked away, he explained. Your only chance to build a great culture and hope that keeps most of your roster intact. So I think through time, developing and being open-minded and sometimes even changing your thought process isn't the worst thing in the world when you see business structures, when you see systems play on out. And you could have a thought earlier in life, and then it changes when you get a little bit older. Like when I was at Temple University, and that's when Temple football was a solid program, right? They beat Penn State for the first time in 74 years. They went to 2 American Athletic Conference championship games. They won the conference 1 time. They had College Game Day embark on the streets of Philadelphia. And it was Temple Notre Dame, where that game did go down to the wire, and Temple almost won the football game before you had a wide receiver. It was Will Fuller catch the ball in the back right of the end zone. And then I think his name was Kavari Russell, as P.J. Walker was driving, intercepted P.J. Walker, and the Owls did go down. Like, to see the rise of Temple football at that time, and I was a student, it was really damn cool, and you felt like there was a place for the little guy in college football. And, right, that's just my experience. Like, there's been so many more little guy schools that had a bigger impact. Like, how about Boise State? And we all remember that iconic Fiesta Bowl, which, if memory serves me right, I think Samter revealed this like a month ago. Samter left that game early, which I can't believe. Like, that's just one of those moments. You leave early and you're like, oh, my God, you probably just hate life. There's other smaller moments in college football. Obviously, you had UCF claiming a national championship when they were undefeated, but it kind of showed that they had no chance of getting into the college football playoff. And then years later, you saw Luke Fickell with Cincinnati lead Cincinnati to the college football playoff. So there's been a lot of evidence where there's a place for the smaller guy in college football. But now with NIL and the transfer portal, it's very tough for the smaller guy to succeed. It just is. Like, I've seen what Temple football has become. It looks not even in the same zip code as what it was back in 2015, 2016, 2017 even. And the program now just can't get off the ground anymore and can't have success because they continuously put people in the NFL, but it's not people that stayed through Temple. Like, you have people go to Temple, and they have a good year or two, and then a bigger school comes calling. And I'm not going to fault, right, the system. I'm not going to fault the player for doing that, because if I could go get more money at another school and play at a bigger program, I would be stupid to say that players shouldn't do that. So what Sonny Dykes is saying, I probably would have vehemently disagreed with in 2015, 2016. I probably would have also vehemently disagreed with it even in 2020. But now with NIL and the transfer portal really defining this era of college football, he's 110% right. It's the haves and it's the have-nots. And there needs to be a new system created that separates the haves and the have-nots. And I understand if, let's say, you're an established smaller program, like a Boise State, right? And you say, nope, I want to compete in this 12-team college football playoff, where the 5-7 format, where 12 teams get in, the 5 conference champions are guaranteed a spot. It's the 5 highest-ranked conference champions. You know, if the Pac-12 was still there, well, the group of 5 would probably get screwed over a lot of years. But now with the Pac-12 pretty much being dead, you have the Core 4, the Power 4, whatever you want to call them, and then one other spot guaranteed for a conference champion. So if you want to say, like the Boise State fan or, you know, the smaller school that's not in the Core 4, I'll take my chances of just being damn good and then get in the playoff, the 12-team playoff, the 1 year, the 2 years, whatever it is, that I'm really damn good and I'm the best of the smaller schools. I can understand that argument. But I think it's more so the developmental part and the lack of separation right now that makes it just so tough for the little program to succeed. And you may as well just compete against all the other little programs. Because I'm not a dummy here, where I understand where you could have this separation and then someone could go to a smaller school and they could still have success and then a big school could still poach them. But if you give that smaller school more of an incentive and you create kind of a format around them, I don't know how lucrative it will be, but the smaller school right now in one game could be on the same playing field as a big school, but in the way that college football is structured, it's not sustainable. It just isn't. And I did read via Dennis Dodd that former Tennessee football coach Derek Dooley is pitching a group of 5 playoff that would be financially backed by private equity. Sources tell CBS Sports the concept would address, if not be motivated by disappointment felt by the group of 5 conferences, the MAC, the Mountain West, the Sun Belt, the American, and Conference USA, over revenue distribution shares under the new college football playoff media rights agreement. The average program in those conferences will receive $1.8 million per year in college football playoff revenue beginning in 2026 under the new deal, up from the current $1.5 million payout. I'll read you one more line here. The group of 5 splits 9% of the annual $1.3 billion deal with ESPN. While the payout marks an increase in raw numbers, it is a percentage decrease considering the group of 5 received 22% of the pot in the prior deal from 2014 to 2023. So if you want to tell me that the 4 major conferences break off and then everyone else forms in and you create a playoff for those schools, I would be fine with it. Because, like, if you're a fan of one of those smaller schools, do you really have a shot? Like, do you really have a shot to win? Even if you get into the college football playoff, are you really going to win the college football playoff? No. So compete against the people that are on the same playing field as you. And then there's some chance that you could have some sustained success. And once again, as I said, there is still a great chance that if you are in a smaller program, that you still get your kids plucked. But at least you could compete for something, and at least you could motivate your players and have something that's actually attainable to reach your goals if they do go to your university. So I'm with this. I don't know if it's going to happen. I feel like we've done these shows at least 15 to 20 times in the last 3 years. What's the future of college football? And I've said for a while that eventually these conferences are going to merge together. I didn't know that the Pac-12 is going to go away this quickly. I think a misnomer here or misconception here is that a lot of people think that the SEC and the Big Ten, which are even in the core four, they're the haves, right? That they're more, those two conferences are more powerful than the Big 12 and the ACC. But I don't think the SEC and also the Big 10 are really going to be motivated to go on out there and add a lot more schools than what people think. Because eventually the TV companies are just going to say, hey, we're not giving you any more money. You just got to divide this up and figure out how you're going to divide up what we're going to give you with the amount of schools that you're going to bring in. So I don't know how many more brands are that are really attractive. You know, obviously there's a few that ring a bell, clearly starting with Notre Dame and a few others. But I don't know how many. I don't think it's a huge number and a big number when it comes to schools that will be desired and hunted to join the SEC and then also join the Big Ten. So I'm okay in seeing this separation and just drawing the line in the sand of this is the state of the sport right now. If you're not in the SEC, if you're not in the Big Ten, if you're not in the ACC, if you're not in the Big 12, do you really have a chance to compete for a championship? Do you really feel like you could have sustained success and build a consistent winner year in and year out? And the answer to that for most schools is no, rather than yes. And I know there's some small examples. And some of those examples have been some of the better stories we've seen in college football. But with NIL and the transfer portal, it makes it the hardest it's ever been for the little guy to keep kicking and the little guy to keep turning and producing a sustainable program. So I think we just need to all acknowledge that. How we acknowledge there's a difference with FBS schools, right, and FCS schools. And you have that FCS playoff, which a lot of people, I don't care for it, but a lot of people talk about that playoff whenever we talk about the possibility of playoff expansion. And all this is just keep on kicking the can down the road. I get that. And the financial part of it is more complicated, and I don't have a great understanding of it. But just from a competition standpoint, and someone that is an alum of a smaller school that participates in big boy college football, you're not really participating in big boy college football. It's just the reality of the situation. And I'm okay with what Sonny Dyke said of make this the haves and the have-nots and you break away. It's not the first time this has been talked about, but to hear it from a core four coach, one of the coaches in one of the four major conferences, it is something that it makes you take it a little bit more seriously. So you could call in and you could figure out at 855-212-4227 what's the best for the future of college football. But I really do believe the four power conferences operating under one umbrella and then everybody else operating under another umbrella and having two different college playoff kind of formats, one for the core four and one for the smaller schools, is something that would be good for the smaller schools because you actually have something to play for. Because as much as we talk about those smaller school coaches, smaller school programs getting players plucked away, there's a lot that stay through. And there's a lot that their playing abilities only allows them to play at that level and play at that program. Like some will go on and transfer. Some will go on to bigger and better things. But at least give those kids that stay something to actually play for rather than just putting this dream out there that, oh, you'll get into the college football playoff where it's such a minuscule chance, even with the guaranteed spot, that the program with these smaller schools are actually going to go in that these kids do commit to. What do you think the future of college football should look like? I think it's going to turn into the haves and the have-nots. It's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when it's going to happen. Whole lot to do today on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a timeout. Rick Carlisle, quit your bitching. We'll get into why he needs to stop complaining when we return.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
Yo, that's right. It is the Infinity Sports Network, and it is the Zach Gelb Show on this Thursday. We will chat it up with former Knicks guard Chris Childs coming up in about 2 hours from now. But first, we have to hear from the head coach of the Indiana Pacers in Rick Carlisle, as the Pacers lost game 2 last night. They're down 0-2 as the series heads back to Indiana. And Rick Carlisle came off last night after the game as a baby. There's no other way to say it when he's bitching about the officials where there are times you should be able to and you can complain about the officials, but last night wasn't one of them. So let's hear from the head coach of the Indiana Pacers, who called out the Zebras after Game 2.
One guy just said he didn't double dribble, but it looked to me like Tibbs went out there and argued it, and they changed it. That's what it looked like. I can only go by what I see, what I saw. That's small beans compared to everything else. Small market teams deserve an equal shot. They deserve a fair shot, no matter where they're playing. Anybody else?
Yeah, let me tell you something, Rick Carlisle. Shut up. Put the binky in your mouth and stop complaining. After Game 1, you had every right to complain about the officials. The officials in Game 1 were below average. But in Game 2 last night, you did not lose that game because of the officiating. So you said nothing after Game 1, but here you are after Game 2 crying like a baby. That's absolutely ridiculous. Don't tell me that you're getting screwed by the officials because you play in a small market and that the Knicks play in a big, bad market, and that's why they're getting the calls. Doesn't impact Minnesota. They're up 2-0 against Denver. It doesn't impact Oklahoma City, right? A small market team. They've had a great season. So don't give me this nonsense that the league is looking to screw over the Pacers because they play in a small market. That's a bunch of hogwash. That's a bunch of baloney. And it's a bunch of BS. How about you be better as a coach? Because as a coach last night, you didn't play TJ McConnell enough when he was having a really good game. And also, your team choked the lead in the third quarter, and the Knicks took over that game in the third quarter, where Jalen Brunson didn't play in the second quarter, and then OG Anunoby got hurt and missed the second half. You had every opportunity to win that game. The officials did not cost you that game last night. And quite frankly, for him to just say, the league basically just screws over these small market teams is ridiculous. The last few years, the Milwaukee Bucks just recently won a championship a few years ago. They're a small market team. We've seen small market teams have a lot of success, and it's not because they overcame crappy officiating. That's a loser mentality from Rick Carlisle when there is no evidence, when it's not a game where you actually got screwed over by the Zebras. He said that, if he would have said that after Game 1, I would not agree with that the officials are trying to screw over a small market team, but he had every right to vent, bitch, and complain after Game 1. He didn't do so. So after Game 2, when there is no impact, none whatsoever by the officials in that game that cost you the game and that impacted the outcome of the game, don't be sitting there crying like a baby. Wah! Oh, the small market teams get screwed. Wah! Oh, it's the big bad market New York Knicks. Wah! Like, are we serious? What are we doing here? That to me is pretty much a coach just trying to ensure that he's going to get calls in his home building for games 3 and games 4, I guess. Or maybe he's trying to motivate his team and use that as a kind of a rallying cry for his team. But I don't know if it's working because, let's hear from a player, Therese Halliburton. Sometimes, right, a coach will say something and the coach will take the fine and the coach will take it on the chin to speak for his locker room. But we know the NBA is a league that's driven by the players. And NBA players aren't afraid to speak their minds. So here's Therese Halliburton on the Game 2 loss to the New York Knicks.
At the end of the day, we got outplayed. We were right there to win the game. Would I like consistency? More consistency, yeah, but let's not pretend like that's the only reason we lost. We just didn't play good enough. But at the end of the day, it's 2-0. We're going back to Indy, and I like us in any matchup. So I'm not worried. But yeah, we like consistency. Just I don't think he double dribbled, but if you can overturn that call, why can't you overturn the kick ball? I don't really understand that. But like I said, they outplayed us. So let's not pretend like the refs are the reason we lost. We just got to be better.
Good on Therese Halliburton. And let's be clear. What they are bitching about did not cost them the game. But even I will admit, I'll be fair all the time. I will admit, when they called the double dribble, it was not a double dribble. But then to say it was an inadvertent whistle, I don't think anyone actually believed that was an inadvertent whistle. Because if you didn't mean to blow your whistle, you would have said so right away in the moment, not at the officials huddle up and then say that. But once again, that did not cost them the game. What cost them the game was when you enter the third quarter, you had the Knicks on the ropes to tie this series up at 1 apiece. You had Brunson out of the game. He comes back in for the start of the third quarter. OG Anunoby gets hurt, leaves the game. You know, they basically played a half without OG Anunoby and a quarter without Jalen Brunson. And the Pacers couldn't hold on to their lead, and the Knicks beat them up pretty damn good, doubled them up in the third quarter, and then showed why they were the better team in the fourth quarter. You know, tell you guys to hustle more. How many rebounds is Josh Hart going to get just because he's hustling now in 2 series? Dante DiVincenzo hits shots. Jalen Brunson is one of the toughest SOBs in the league. He's unbelievable what he does. Guy missed a quarter last night. What did he finish with 30 points? That's crazy. So Rick Carlisle, I think this is him just being frustrated. You can't actually be, though, this stupid and this dense. I'm just going to say it as nicely as I can, to actually think that the league is sitting there and Adam Silver, who's in the building, is sitting there and saying, hey, Pacers are a small market. Let's screw over the Pacers. League, you know, let's get Tim Donaghy back on the court. League, let's screw over the Pacers and allow the Knicks to win. It's just foolish. It's just jackassery. And it's just stupidity by Rick Carlisle. And he's a baby. And he's crying. And his feelings are hurt because his team's down 0-2. I don't even have a dog in the fight. Like, I don't. I know I was at the game last night. I'm behind the bench. I was cheering for the Knicks. All right? Because it was a fun atmosphere. It was a fun building. I get that. So I'm sure some dope could go, oh, well, you're behind the bench last night cheering for the Knicks. That was a great atmosphere. I don't have an NBA team. You know, I watch the Rangers fully in hockey. I watch the Patriots fully in football. I watch Michigan football fully in college football. Baseball, I'll be rocking and rolling with my Mets. But when you watch the NBA, that game last night, and you're in that building with that atmosphere, I'm just watching the moment. It was pretty damn cool. But never did I think, in game 1, I did think it was the case that they got screwed by the officials. The kickball was a disgrace. And the offensive foul call was stupid. That gripe is deserving in game 1. But in game 2, outside of the double dribble that was overturned, where you're not winning the game anyway at that point, what are your legitimate complaints? Like when I see Brian Windhorst say that overnight, the Pacers filed 49 calls they felt were incorrect from game 2 to the NBA office. According to a league source, they sent in 29 from game 1 they previously withheld as well, for a total of 78. Oh, my goodness. How about you study a little bit more? How about you prepare more? That'd be like if I failed a test in college, which, trust me, I did that enough. C's get degrees. That was my motto, which means you fail a few tests in order to get some C's eventually. You know, you're not going to be batting 1,000. But that would be like if I failed the test and I go, well, out of the 80 questions that they put on the test, about 42 of them were unfair. I'm going to send it to the dean of the school. Like, nothing's going to go in your favor because maybe they eliminate like 1 or 2 questions. But the officiating did not impact the game last night. All righty, let's go to Manny Rodriguez, because I know Manny is a Knicks fan. And before we put Manny on camera, if you are watching us on YouTube, just be prepared to see how Manny is dressed for success today. And I would say he's dressed for success, but then he's working at a radio station. None of us dress like Manny Rodriguez is today. What are you, selling me some insurance or something like that?
I mean, I can get you out of a timeshare if that's what you need.
Yeah.
I can do it.
Good read for later in the show, maybe. But geez, you're dressed up very nice today.
Well, I had a
job
meeting.
Interview or funeral?
A little bit of both. I did a job interview here at the network, and
the job interview went so poorly, you had to go to a funeral afterwards.
No, actually, the funeral is for the Indiana Pacers because of this crybaby Carlisle. What a loser. 78 plays.
Crybaby Carlisle.
Are you kidding me?
Has Manny been sitting next to me a little bit too much? That sounds like something I would say.
Well, I'm over here sitting next to zillionaire Zach. sitting a couple of rows from the Knicks bench.
I called the play last night.
Yeah, no, I mean, did you see one of the fouls that Carlisle was crying about?
No, I didn't. And I'm 6'4", and I was standing on a platform, so I could see a lot. The double dribble was stupid to overturn. It wasn't a double dribble.
It was a funky looking play. If anything, it was a palming violation. Mm-hmm. But
but that didn't impact the game. No, that's not why they lost.
No, come on. Plus, he's complaining about all the fouls and whatnot. I mean, did you know, Zach, that before Carlisle got hit with his first technical foul, the Pacers actually had more free throw attempts than the Knicks?
I didn't even know that, honestly.
Yeah, they had 17 free throws. That's how they finished.
Too many margaritas at the game to understand that.
That's good job. And additionally, is it the referee's fault that they shot, 58, 59% from the free throw line?
Is it the official's fault that they didn't put TJ McConnell back in the
over
game?
the last 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, Carlisle. Give me a break.
Okay, so I'm assuming you're in the running for the Bart Winkler Show producer. Is that why you're all
a little bit. This is
Hey, Stu. Maybe we have to add him to the coin flip when it comes to Tom Telesco. Just flipping coins to determine who's going to be the Raiders pick at 13th overall.
Can he dice at this point?
Ooh, that's not a bad idea. We could do roulette. Infinity Sports Network roulette. We'll get all the hosts. We'll put in some money. We'll put on certain candidates. We'll have the ball go around the wheel and see who it lands on. That could be fun.
This is why you get paid the big bucks, man.
That would be fun. Zillionaire Zach. I kind of like that. I didn't pay for the tickets last night, so.
I mean, according to the internet, you do have that net rating net wealth of millions of dollars?
$1 to $5 million, it says. That's my salary for the year. I could confirm that's not even close. And it's not in the better direction. It's in the wrong direction.
Not to get into your pockets, but.
No, come on. If I made $1 to $5 million a year, I think I'd do this job for like 6 or 7 years and then say goodbye and go off to some island and just put my feet up and relax and hang out.
Doesn't that sound phenomenal right now?
Yeah.
That's about to be what Carlisle and the.
You got to be roasting today.
Pace what?
Because it's so hot in this building.
No, yeah,
you're wearing this suit.
Yeah, bad decisions.
You ever see Wolf of Wall Street?
Yeah, of course.
You know when the detective, the FBI agent, is sitting on the subway and like Jordan Belfort goes out of his way to say, "Oh, you're probably miserable sweating in that suit," and like he's like making fun of the regular day guy that goes on the subway in the suit and the tie and everything.
Great movie.
That's what you probably got to feel like today.
No, yeah, it's definitely
got to be schwitzing in your asshole.
It's definitely sweaty underneath all of this right now. But I look good.
Yeah, you don't smell though. At least that's good. There's
God.
some people around here, man. They sweat, they smell. You're like, oh, get away from me.
No comment.
Absolutely disgusting.
No comment.
You're looking good, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
How much gel you put in your hair today?
A lot. I mean, hey, if I don't put any gel in this, when.
Do you usually have a mustache?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
For some reason. I don't know why.
I've had it for about 2 years now.
You don't go goatee at all?
Go what now?
Goatee?
No. Because
Beard?
I have. No, it doesn't grow in, dude. It doesn't grow in. Thank you. Thanks, man.
What? I'm not Mr. Facial Hair myself.
Well, I mean, I still feel bad about it. I feel sorry for myself whenever I look into the mirror and I have patchy beard.
I could grow a goatee. I cannot grow a beard.
No. Plus, I look great with this mustache. I might have to trim.
I must ask you a question.
Yeah.
Coming up later.
Sure.
You know what? Just give us the sports, okay?
Okay, fine.
Well, come on back. We will update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. That is a news brief. But first up, with the latest Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash, here is the very sharp, the Mr. Dress to Impress, the biggest Knicks homer on the planet.
Woo!
And that is Manny Rodriguez. Go, Manny! Go,
Infinity
Manny, go!
Sports Network Sports Flash.
All right, Zillionaire Zach, we're sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save nearly $750 on average. Click or call today and find out if we could save you hundreds on your car insurance. The Celtics are set to host the Cavs in Game 2 of their Eastern Conference semifinal matchup tonight at 7 Eastern. But Boston will have to do it with one less coach on their bench. Celtics lead assistant coach Charles Lee has been named the head coach of the Charlotte Hornets. The 39-year-old reportedly inked a 4-year deal with the team, who finished 21-61 last season. Following Celtics Cavs will be Thunder Mavs in Oklahoma City, a 9:30 Eastern tip. The Thunder hold a 1-0 series lead. To the NHL, after another disappointing end to their season, the Toronto Maple Leafs have fired head coach Sheldon Keefe. The Leafs were eliminated in 7 games in the first round of the 2024 Stanley Cup playoffs by the Boston Bruins. As for what's happening tonight on the ice, the Hurricanes are set to host the Rangers in Game 3 of their series. New York holds a 2-0 series lead, while the Stars are looking to avenge their Game 1 loss to the Colorado Avalanche. They'll face off at 9:30 Eastern. Let's go to the Diamond. The Twins are all over the Mariners 11-1, top 8. D-backs, they lead the Reds 4-2 in the bottom of the 7th inning. And the Giants and Rockies, they're scoreless, top 2. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
And this portion of the show is sponsored by the new Hyundai Tucson, available with complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Now it's easy to use your phone to control your Tucson. It's the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's get to a news brief.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Let's go to Julian Edelman and Drew Bledsoe. Games with Names podcast. They were saying a little bit awkward between Robert Kraft and the hoodie. Bill Belichick at the TB12 roast.
Tension in that room, though.
It was real.
Good cut.
It was very real. It was very real.
I was so awkward. I was watching Coach, and I tried to give Coach a heads up. I'm like, I see Kraft walk in. I'm like, yo, Coach. You know, some locker room, like 5-0, 5-0. You know, like, he did. Of course, he didn't see it.
Right.
And he came in, and I was like, oh, this could be some fireworks. I just walked away.
So I think a big topic the last few years was the tension between Brady and Belichick. I feel like whatever that tension was has now been over and done with. But now you replace the tension with Belichick and Brady and the tensions with Belichick and Robert Kraft. And I think that's legitimate tension because Brady and Belichick were together for 20-something years. And, right, they're the two names most synonymous with the dynasty. And there was always that question, who's more important, which I absolutely hated that debate. And it got bad at the end and it got petty at the end. But there were so many good years and great years of them together. Now, I know you could say the same thing with Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick, but Tom Brady never prevented, Bill Belichick from getting a job somewhere else. And reportedly, Robert Kraft basically told Arthur Blank, yeah, you're never going to have a warm, fuzzy relationship with Bill Belichick, which is not false, but you don't say that about someone that you spent 20-something years with when they're trying to get a job somewhere else and were clearly the front runner for that job, and you basically persuaded Arthur Blank not to hire Bill Belichick. So I think Belichick's actually in the right here, where he has every right to be annoyed and give some icy stares to Robert Kraft. So in a weird way, because no offense, I love Robert Kraft, but if I had to pick out of the three, Kraft, Brady, and Belichick, who I want feuding, I don't want Brady and Bill to be feuding. I'd rather have Bill and Robert be feuding, and that's what it seems like it's down to now. Let's go to the general manager of the Detroit Lions, Brad Holmes. He was on with Costa and Jansen on WXYT in Detroit, the ticket. There's an extension for Jared Goff coming soon.
First and foremost, he's earned an extension, and it's important. It's a high priority for us, and both sides are working really, really hard. These things just kind of take a while, especially with the quarterback market. But I do have faith that it's going to get done.
So we're in an interesting spot. We'll do more on this later. but Jared Goff enters the last year of his contract. Dak Prescott enters the last year of his contract, and Tua Tagovailoa is on his 5th-year option this season. All their general managers like, yeah, these deals take a while to get done, but we believe in our guy. We're going to get a deal done. Like, Dak's not getting a deal done before the start of the season. And Tua and Jared Goff are ones that there's a chance it could get done. I still feel like Tua has more to prove, but when we get to Jared Goff, he's just coming off an NFC title game appearance. The Lions finally have stability for the first time in a long time. I wouldn't mess around with this one, but then also, where is Jared Goff really going? And you have the ability to franchise tag him, I believe, if you want. But I'm a little bit surprised out of the 3 that this is the one that has not got done yet. Let's go to Rick Carlisle. We talked about his bitching in the last segment about the officials in Game 2. Here is more ranting from Coach Carlisle. I like what Manny said. Crybaby Carlisle. More ranting about the refs after Game 2.
After Game 1, we always go through the film, and games where it felt like the whistles weren't balanced, and we pull the clips. There's a way you can submit them to the MDA office, and so there were 29 plays in Game 1 that we thought were clearly called the wrong way. I decided not to submit them because I just felt like we'd get a more balanced whistle tonight. It didn't feel that way. Couple examples. 5:08 of the third. The whole world knows that Halliburton's got a bad back, and Hart comes up and shoves him in the back. It's all over Twitter right now because a few people have showed it to me. And JB DeRosa's looking right at it. You can see him. He's got vision of the play, and he shoves Ty right into the corner, and there's no whistle. Right in the back. That was shocking, but I can promise you that we're going to submit these tonight. New York can get ready. They'll see them too. I'm always talking to our guys about not making it about the officials, but we deserve a fair shot. It's just not. There's not a consistent balance, and that's disappointing. Give New York credit for the physicality that they're playing with, but their physicality is rewarded and ours is penalized. Just time after time. I'm just really disappointed. Just really disappointed. You got to make a stand for your guys. You got to stand up for what's right and what's not right, and that was it.
Well, then you should have said that after Game 1. Because in Game 1, the officiating, there were 2 moments at the end of the game, the kickball and also the illegal screen that should not have been called. That's when you should have complained. Last night, there was nothing egregious that made me said, oh, the Pacers got screwed by the officials in the game last night and it impacted the game like it did in Game 1. And Samter, you're more of a numbers guy than I am. You went to Boston University. You went to BU. Let me just ask you a question here, numbers related. If one team gets to the charity stripe 17, they get 17 free throws. And let's say the other team gets 22 free throws. Is that a big difference, just wondering?
From a number standpoint, no, but you have to look inside the game and see, are those 22 free throws that first team is getting on, 12 opportunities? And is the 17 free throws happening on 30 opportunities where guys may have been fouled and they're just not getting called? So no, yes, by numbers 22 and 17, not a big difference. However, it depends. If the team that's getting 17 free throws is more aggressive and they're getting fouled more often, but it's not getting called, then yes, it could become a bigger.
Which wasn't the case last night. And the Pacers had 17 fouls called against their players. The Knicks had 14 fouls called against their players. And you look at the free throw percentages, the Knicks shot 81.8% at the free throw line. When the Pacers got the calls at the free throw line, they shot 58.8% from the charity stripe. So, Coach, how about stop bitching for more foul calls and tell your players to make the free throws? And then maybe 1 or 2 calls then could have decided the game. It just wasn't merited. It was not warranted last night to complain about the officials. In Game 1, it was. I'm being fair. I'm just calling it how I see it. Nikola Jokic, 3-time NBA MVP award winner after last night. He did an interview with Shaq on Inside the NBA on TNT, and Shaq went out of his way to say, big fella, I appreciate you, but I don't think you should have won the award.
I want you to hear from me first. I thought the SGA should have been the MVP. That's no disrespect to you, but congratulations.
Thank you, Shaq. We don't judge people here, so that's fine. It's your opinion. I'm joking.
No, hey, all good. I love you. I love your brothers. One thing we always going to do is keep it real with each other. Congratulations. I love
No,
you.
for real. I think there is a lot of players that deserve it. It's probably details and kind of small things.
Stu, what do you think about that question by Shaq? Just wondering. Do you think he should have asked that?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I didn't have a problem with it. Didn't stick out as like, wow, like he's out of line. I think that's just how Shaq is. Shaq has been very honest with fellow big men and Dwight Howard in the past. I think he's just being honest.
Samter, any problem with that?
No, and I didn't listen to the whole show, but I'm assuming that they probably were talking on the air about how Shaq thought that SGA should have won the MVP. And Shaq probably knew that Charles was going to try to throw him under the bus the second that he got the opportunity. So he wanted to be the first to say, hey, Jokic, I love you. You're deserving, but SGA was more deserving.
The reason I asked you guys that question first is I'm with you. But I understand social media is not a true reflection of society. But on social media, everyone's like, that's the wrong time and place. And you could just tell those people have never hosted a show. Like, could you imagine if I'm trashing someone and then you bring them on the air and you don't ask them at least about what you're trashing that person about? It'd be very disingenuous. It'd be very fraudulent. That's when we ever have like contentious interviews, or we have interviews with people like, oh, I didn't expect you to ask that question. Well, I would look like a coward and a fraud if I didn't ask that question. So if what Santer's saying is true, that Shaq made it well known that SGA, he thought he should have won the MVP, maybe could have been a little bit more kinder in the approach about it. But I'm not going to slam him for that. I actually respect that Shaq had the cojones to say, hey, I don't think you should have won the MVP, and you get the reaction. Instead of just saying like, hey, some people say you shouldn't have won the MVP, when we all know who that some person was, and it was the big fella, Shaquille O'Neal. All righty, that's a news brief. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Brian Kelly has an issue with NIL. The new Boise State head football coach also talked about NIL as well. Why are some coaches not embracing NIL? And will it be a hindrance to their programs moving forward? We'll discuss that on the other side. You can always give us a call, 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227, and follow the Zach Gelb Show on X, Twitter, Instagram, at Zach Gelb. That is ZACHGELB. Coming on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Alrighty, hour number 2 of our radio program. We will get to a little bit about NIL in just a second. But first, I meant to do this earlier. I'll do it now. Congratulations are in order to Eric Eager, who is the VP at Sumer Sports. He's actually joining the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers, according to Joe Person, are planning to hire Sumer Sport VP Eric Eager in a analytics role. Per league sources, Eager worked for Pro Football Focus prior to Sumer Sports, a startup in 2022 that also employs Thomas Dimitroff, aimed at helping NFL teams in player acquisitions and roster management. So, good job out of Eric Eager getting involved in some capacity in an analytical role with the Carolina Panthers. Now, let's just hope that their owner, David Tepper, if he gets mad with the numbers, doesn't throw a drink in Eric Eager's face, because he's a very nice guy and always enjoy our conversations with him. But congratulations to Eric Eager. Okay, we played you the sound yesterday. I want to play it for you again because it will set up what we're about to talk about. Here is Brian Kelly, WFAB 9, the head football coach of the LSU Tigers. I'll still always say whenever I hear the LSU Tigers at Orgeron, go Tigers! A little warning to players who just want a payday these days.
We're selling something a little bit differently, and that is we want to recruit, we want to engage, build relationships, we want to develop, retain, and have success. We're not in the market of buying players, and unfortunately, right now, that's what some guys are looking for. They want to be bought, And we're not going to go out and buy players. That's not what this is about. This was never about that. We will develop you. We will get you ready for the next step, as we did with Jaden Daniels, as we did with Malik Neighbors, as we did with Brian Thomas. But if you're just looking to get paid, you're looking in the wrong place. If you just want to get, paid, this is not the place for you.
That's such a ridiculous thing that he just said. Like, I understand what he's saying. He's basically saying if you're just going to get the NIL money and then not put in the work and not try to be a good football player, then don't come here. I think we're all fine with that. But this idea that he's trying to present that, and it comes off with like a negative feeling about NIL, it's such a bunch of bull crap. Because we all know LSU's paying players a ton of money. And let me let you in on a little secret. They were paying players before NIL was even allowed, like so many of these other big college football programs. So I roll my eyes whenever you have the tough guy football coach, right? Brian Kelly, who, by the way, whether this is fair or not, he comes off so phony. When he gets to that press conference coming over from Notre Dame all those years ago, and he's like, oh, welcome me into your family, the Tiger family. And then he's doing those cheesy videos with the recruits, and he's like, oh, come join the LSU family. I'm like, where did this accent come from, coach? So that's always rubbed me the wrong way with Brian Kelly, who's a good coach. And there's nothing against Brian Kelly, but him trying to be like all tough guy here, how dare people just think we're just going to give players money and they're not going to have to put in the work. That's not the program for you. We're going to develop you like we developed this player and that player and this player and that player. It's like, can you just save us all the time? And can you stop pretending as if the money doesn't play a factor here? Because let me tell you something with some of these bigger players, like a bigger program in LSU. If you're going to tell the player, yeah, we're not going to pay you, which Brian Kelly's not doing here, they'll get the money somewhere else. All right, they will get the money somewhere else and someone else will develop them. Why can't we just live in a world where you embrace getting paid and also getting developed? But to say the develop part, you almost have to take a shot and have to put down the money part of it. And this idea that a lot of players just aren't going to put in the work when they get paid. And here's a newsflash. That's at a lot of jobs. A lot of people write they get the bag. And there's always that concern, well, how extra motivated are you going to be now that you're finally getting compensated? But come on. It's just one of those instances where Brian Kelly's trying to make himself look a whole lot better when the reality of the situation is he's going to pay players a ton of money, and there's going to be, like, through their collectives, and there's going to be players that go to LSU. Some will develop, some will be great, and some will get the money, and they're not going to be great or as great as you thought the money that they're getting should actually be. Hey, Stu, I want to ask you about Brian Kelly, because you're a Notre Dame honk, right? You love Notre Dame. What are your thoughts on Brian Kelly, who was at Notre Dame for all those years and had a lot of success, right? Saved that program and turned that program back around in terms of, for a while, Notre Dame got away from really winning a ton of games on the football field, and they were just rotating through coaches. And Brian Kelly had a messy ending at Notre Dame. You weren't expecting him to leave Notre Dame for LSU. I get why he did, because I felt like you have a better chance to win a championship at LSU than Notre Dame. 3 coaches have won a championship at LSU since 2000. And, Les Miles, Nick Saban, and Ed Orgeron. Go Tigers! And for Notre Dame, it seems like they could just get into a college football playoff. Once they get into the college football playoff, they don't really do much. So just what are your thoughts on Brian Kelly, who I think he always tries to think he's going about things the right way, and he always likes to puff himself up, but in reality, there's like a lot of times where, I don't know if tone deaf is the right word, but it just comes off as like a little phony and a little fraudulent.
Yeah, I get the same vibes from him. He's almost his own worst enemy. I feel like when he was in Notre Dame, these kind of comments were less.
Yeah.
It feels like as soon as he went to LSU, he kind of changed personalities a bit.
And it's not like you don't get covered at Notre Dame, right?
No,
you have a huge
that
platform, and I know the Notre Dame fan is a great fan, but you get into LSU football fandom and SEC like territory. It's like last night after the Knicks game, I went out to the cigar bar on 56 and 7th. And Josh Booty was there, the former LSU quarterback, and he had a bunch of friends there and big LSU football fan base, right? And they start talking to me about LSU. And they're talking about the third string left tackle. And like that's what they're talking about. They're talking about third string players. And it's crazy to me how deep of the football knowledge that is. And it's a different kind of just love that you have. And when you have the coach come in and he's right, a first impression, it's not like you could survive a bad first impression, but a lot of times when you have a bad first impression, that sticks with you. And when you have a guy from Massachusetts walking in thinking he's Mr. Southerner and he's trying to sound like he's from the South, it doesn't impact the way that you should view him as a football coach. Like, oh, this guy's not a good football. Like, his resume speaks for himself for itself at Cincinnati, Notre Dame. But it's just like, you're trying to be someone that you're not. Like, just be yourself. And yourself has got you to a good point. It's almost as if Brian Kelly is trying to be, is just trying to lecture. That's what it is. And his way is gospel. His way is the best way. And just that quote, I get what he's saying. That if you're just taking the paycheck and you're not going to put in the work, then this place isn't for you. But all these football coaches that leave jobs and make a ton of money, and they speak poorly about NIL, and I understand, it's a different structure, it's a different system. It used to be more of a my way or the highway approach, and now it isn't. And players have outs, and players now have freedom to go elsewhere. I can understand why that's a tough adjustment. But Brian Kelly, you get paid a ton of money to deal with that. And I don't know if he meant it that way, but it just came off very negatively with NIL when you know LSU is going to pay players a king's ransom. They have, and they will continue to do so. So let me advance this conversation a little bit further. I saw this via On3 Sports. Boise State's coach Spencer Danielson announced incoming freshmen are banned from taking NIL money during their first season. If you're looking for the easy way and you're looking for a handout, don't come to Boise State. Now, BJ Rains, who covers Boise State football, he's a Boise State beat writer for BNN Bronco Nation. He responded to that tweet, and he said, for starters, the conversation was supposed to be off the record. Second, he said they won't promise or guarantee NIL money to freshmen before they sign with Boise State. They have to earn it once they show up. Never said they were ineligible to get it. So let me ask you this, Samter, because I read the original tweet, which is if you're looking for an easy way out, you're looking for a handout, don't come to Boise State. Boise State Spencer Danielson announced incoming freshmen are banned from taking NIL money for their first season. And then the BJ Rains part is, no, they're not ineligible. They just have to earn it. So I understand the technicality, right, of being ineligible and being able to earn it. So clearly they're able to earn it and they're not ineligible. But once again, this is another coach that it seems like he's not embracing NIL. And actually, I think this quote, and depending on what the validity of it is and the context of it too, which we're not privy of, I think this quote is actually 10 times worse than what Brian Kelly just said, which we just spent 8 minutes how I was not happy with what Brian Kelly said. Because I like Boise State as a program. Boise State has had a lot of success. However, in a world where you're operating in reality, where you're a smaller program, and you are a small fish in a large pond, you are basically telling recruits you have to earn NIL. And there will be, forget bigger schools. Let's make this a level playing field. There will be smaller schools that will guarantee players money for just stepping foot on campus through their collectives. So that's if you're maybe a bigger program where you have the brand, maybe you could get away with it, but even I think the bigger programs can't get away with it anymore. But for a smaller program's coach, whether what he said or not, but just the way that it's been reported, to basically say they have to earn it, we're not going to guarantee it to them their freshman year, well, Like, I'm looking at this from a business side. Like, think about it this way. When I was coming out of college, let's say radio station A and radio station B gave me offers. Radio station A gave me a guaranteed amount of money. But then radio station B said, we'll give you a decent starting salary, but then there's incentives. I'm taking the guarantee. If they're like similar radio stations, if I could, let's just say, for argument's sake, let's just use small numbers here. Let's say radio station A said, we'll pay you $500 guaranteed. $500 guaranteed. And then radio station B said, we'll pay you $150. Maybe we'll give you some incentives to get to $800. Like, I'm taking the more guaranteed money if it's not that big of a discrepancy of what I could potentially earn. So in this case, to just tell your freshmen, well, we're not guaranteeing it, you have to earn it. Well, then what are they agreeing on with the NIL collective? And what's the exact standards? I'll tell you this. My first job in radio, and Stu and I actually worked at the same company. My first job in radio, I had a set salary. And then there was a few $1,000s of incentives. The first year comes up, and maybe this is part of my fault too. And I go, well, did I get my bonus? Like, they never told me what the incentive, it was just like, it was very vague contract. I was dumb and naive. And so part of it's my fault. I'll take ownership of that. But they were like, oh no, you didn't earn your bonus. I said, what do you mean I didn't earn my bonus? I'm like, I put in the work. The listenership numbers went up. Social media content went up. More people were paying attention to the station, right? We made national news. Like, I've done this my entire career. And they go, oh, well, you didn't earn your bonus because we never defined how you could earn your bonus. So it's like, how do you earn the money? And what does it get determined on? Playing time, like practice, like what determines you making the money? And I guarantee this. If, let's say, Boise State isn't willing to guarantee you the money, let me just throw out a random school. San Diego State. I'm sure they'll be willing to guarantee you something that's in the same ballpark as Boise State. I actually think what the Boise State coach may or may not have said, whether it's on the record, off the record, whatever, I think a lot of times people go, oh, I was supposed to be off the record and things like that. They're just trying to backtrack and they're using someone else in the media to maybe walk it back. It's a stupid approach. It's not going to work, and it's not going to work out well for this coach in college football. In an era now, you either have to adapt or you get out. And that's just the bottom line.
The only thing that I can think of, because I agree with you that it's not a smart thing to say, because you're putting yourself in a position that's basically telling recruits you're not going to be able to give them what they want. The only thing that I can say
I also wonder how genuine that is, too.
Yeah.
Because sometimes coaches say things and they're not actually genuine. Like, how firm are they? Like, let's just say, I don't know, because a recruit grew up in that area. You have a 5-star recruit who's a freshman that usually wouldn't consider your school, right? Because like Alabama and Georgia's going after. But let's say, oh, he wants to stay close to home. So I'm actually interested in Boise State. And like, you got to tell that kid, you're going to tell that kid, boy, you can't get guaranteed money by coming to school? Like, come on. Do I actually really believe it's apples to apples for every freshman coming in? Probably not in this case, Samter.
No, it probably isn't. But I think for me, when I hear him say that, it's kind of like you talk about that radio station or that job kind of thing, right? If one station is Infinity Sports Network, national network, right? And the other one is Bill's radio station with, a reach of 1 mile radius, and he has $50 budget.
Where I was working.
So you can't compete with small station versus big station. You can't compete if you're Boise to Alabama. So this almost feels like all right, let me just hedge my bet. I can't compete with the Alabamas, the LSUs, the Georgias, the Michigans. So I'm just going to tell recruits, you know what? If you want NIL money, I can't compete anyway, so you might as well go there. If you want to play in a place like Boise and you want to get trained and taught and you want to play with some good talent and play against, then come here. But if what you want is money, I can't give you what some of these other schools are going to be able to give you.
But big school to small school, fine, I get it. A lot of these small schools are competing in a pool with other small schools for these smaller time players that still have leverage. And Like, if the coach at Boise State, Spencer Danielson, was like 65, I'd be like, okay, I get it. He's older. He was rooted in this way, and you don't really have to adapt because he's on the back nine of his career. He's on the 16th, 17th, or 18th hole of his career. Like Saban, or Krzyzewski, or Roy Williams, or Jay Wright, who was even younger. Right? They were so accomplished. They were so established. They were at the top of their profession. They all got out because they didn't want to deal with this stuff. But the coach at Boise State is 35 years old. So if you have 20 or 30 years left of coaching, let's just say, NIL is not going anywhere. We may get some more clarity on NIL, but it's not going anywhere. So to tell freshmen that you're trying to attract, hey, we're not going to guarantee you anything, it's dumb. And it puts Boise State, a program that a lot of people like, in a spot where it's not advantageous to them to continue to be the program that they've been in the past. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a break. Jalen Brunson returned from injury last night and had a heck of a second half as the Knicks come back to take down the Indiana Pacers and have a 2-0 series lead. What's your favorite heroic moment in sports? Stu has an answer, Santer has an answer, and of course, yours truly, Zach Gelb, has an answer when we come on back.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
Yo, this portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. Jalen Brunson exited the Knicks game last night, and there was a long time that did go by, and a lot of time that did go by until we found out an update on Jalen Brunson. At first, and I saw it right away where I was sitting last night, I'm like, oh, he suffered a hand injury. He kept on grabbing his hand. And then I'm like, oh, maybe he suffered a groin injury. And then it comes out that he's questionable to return with a foot injury, which is kind of crazy because initially he was grabbing his hand, or maybe for like a split second you thought he got kicked somewhere where you don't want to get kicked, or hit somewhere where you don't want to get hit. And he exited the court and then came back out for the second half and had an incredible performance. Like, what Jalen Brunson did with missing the entirety of the second quarter is remarkable. He played in 32 minutes in the game last night, had 29 points. And if he didn't miss a free throw at the end, he would have had 30 points in the game. The dude right now is just unstoppable, where he just rolls out of bed and it feels like he's going to give you a performance that would replicate what a 40-point performance would be. If he would have played more minutes and didn't have to miss as much time as he did, he would have got 40 points last night. Like, there's no doubt about it in my mind. So you have that moment occur last night, and it's not going to go down, like, I understand that we're doing this topic, but it's not going to go down as one of the all-time great sports heroic moments. But in that moment, it was heroic, where he overcame an injury, he overcame some adversity, and he ended up having a phenomenal second half and led the Knicks on their comeback. So let's go around the room here. We are going to talk about our favorite moment in sports that an athlete overcame something and had a great performance. I will start with mine. 2008 U.S. Open. Tiger Woods and Rocco Mediate. Tiger Woods is playing on one leg. Literally one leg. He broke his leg. He goes on to not only have a playoff with Rocco, but win the playoff. And at the time, that was his last major for a long time, because a lot did happen, obviously, away from the golf course with Tiger Woods. And then we didn't see him win another major until that Masters Championship a few years ago. But that performance by Tiger Woods in 2008, it is one of the grittiest, gutsiest individual moments I have ever seen in sports. And I know people say, well, how much do you really need to be active in golf? And he was standing on one leg at like a best of a best event, one of the 4 major championships, also had to play an extra full round because of the playoff, and was still able to outlast all the competition. So for me, it's the 2008 U.S. Open with Tiger Woods. Samter, what is yours?
I'm going way off the board on this one. When I say it, you're going to be like, oh, of course. But it's not one that you think of off the top of your head, right? You always go baseball, basketball, football. What? No,
Well, time out real quickly before you get the answer. There is one that to me is the creme de la creme moment. This is what is your favorite, right? Or, just one that just stood out to you. There is one that I think is like the iconic one that if it's not mentioned, I will mention, but continue it.
Okay, I think I know which one you're talking about, but this one is, I think to me, this is iconic, and this is not just my favorite, but I think if it's not the one that you're mentioning, then it certainly is maybe one of the most iconic. It's Kerry Strug in the 1996 Olympics. All right, this is the women's gymnastics team had never won the Olympics in the history. It started in 1928.
By the way, this is not the one I was talking about, to be clear.
But this to me is the most iconic, heroic moment of all time, right? Because this is a moment where you have the entire world watching you. This isn't New York versus Indiana. Sure. This is the U.S. versus Russia. This is the U.S. versus everybody, versus history. And you do a vault where you injure yourself. You sprain your ankle so bad that you can't walk. And you're forced to go out there again. And on one leg, you land one of the most difficult vaults ever. And you land it and you stick it. Just long enough before you collapse to the ground because you're in so much pain, and you win a gold medal for the U.S. the first time ever. It was the most iconic moment, I think, in sports history. Heroic, injured player going out there and performing on the most pressure-packed stage that we've ever seen in the singular moment. To me, Kerry Strug is by far, in a way, not just my favorite, but the most iconic, heroic moment of all time.
I'm not saying anything negatively about the moment. I would have never expected that to be the moment that you gave. I'm actually very impressed because, I'm giving one, you're giving one, Stu's giving one. Usually on this show, we talk about not even 4 major sports. It's usually like 2 major sports. So you would figure it'd be something that's, and I gave golf, to be fair, but it's Tiger, right? Tiger's one of the more recognizable athletes ever. So it's a little bit different. But usually most of the moments are like, hey, football or basketball, maybe even baseball, like back in the day. Would have never thought you would have gave an Olympic moment.
And I can promise you, a lot of the people in their cars or at work or at home listening to the show right now
are like, yeah, it's a good one.
They're saying to themselves, I didn't think of that one, but that one is absolutely when I was watching that. There's been nothing before or since that has come close to equating to that moment of a player overcoming an injury in a pressure-packed, heroic moment and coming through. Never before or since.
Oh, wow. Do I have my breaking news sounder? Just wondering if I could stall here for a few seconds when you play it. When you have it, play it, Stu.
We have breaking news on the Zach Gelb Show.
The Phoenix Suns, according to Adrian Wojnarowski, have dismissed coach Frank Vogel. The Suns, who won 49 regular season games with the league's 3rd highest payroll and tax, were swept in the opening round series to the Timberwolves. Mike Budenholzer will be a prominent part of the search. Let me just give you the instant reaction. Kevin Durant, I'm sorry, your legacy has taken a big hit. Because when you wanted to go off on your own and you wanted to be the face of a franchise in Brooklyn and now in Phoenix, you haven't been able to deliver. And this is so NBA, where the players don't get the majority of the criticism. Frank Vogel is not the biggest reason why the Phoenix Suns didn't reach their level of success that people thought they could going into this season. The roster was not properly constructed. Yes, you have Kevin Durant. Yes, you have Devin Booker. Bradley Beal, that's not a big-time player. I know he's paid big-time money, but the dude is hurt a lot. And he's not as good as what people thought he was a few years ago. And he screwed himself because he waited to leave the Washington Wizards. And for Kevin Durant, it's very similar to LeBron James. When things don't go his way, his coach gets fired, right? Look at Kevin Durant in Brooklyn. They love Kenny Atkinson at first. Let's get Kenny Atkinson out. Let's bring in my pal Steve Nash. Then Steve Nash gets fired. Okay, KD goes to Phoenix. Monty Williams, back-to-back poor showings in the postseason. I know Durant wasn't there for one of them. all righty, we got to get rid of Monty Williams. Frank Vogel, come on down. We'll make you the coach for a year. And then you fire him. Hey, I say, like, the Suns are a joke. And I love that they're a joke. Because KD, he's just turned into such an obnoxious person. Like, he thinks he should be at the table for the greatest of all time. No, you're not a top 10 player of all time. You were on that path. But what Charles Barkley said is 1,000% true. As great as he is, he's going to be remembered as a great player, like a top 20 player of all time, probably closer to top, he's in the top 15, but he does not go into the top 10. But he's someone that, after the Golden State, because he had his insecurities play out in Golden State, he should have just gave everyone the middle finger, and I've said this before, and just simply say, I'm going to go win 4 or 5 championships. You have nothing but, at the end of the day, you could only give me praise. Because eventually you just got to let it go. If you keep on winning all those finals MVPs and all those championships. He couldn't do that, and it was a disaster in Brooklyn, and now it's a disaster in Phoenix, and it's always someone else's fault. Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal. I'm not blaming Frank Vogel here, but Matt Ishbia did. So much for that guy at the oh, yeah, we believe in Frank Vogel. He wouldn't commit to him, but yeah, we believe in him. We have the right coach. Blah, 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 blah. Like, come on. It's so absurd. Darvin Ham gets rid of LeBron. LeBron gets rid of Darvin Ham. Durant basically gets rid of Frank Vogel. It's always someone else's fault. That's the NBA, though. So there's the breaking news that you do have Frank Vogel out as the head coach of the Phoenix Suns. Real quickly, Stu, let's just work backwards here now. Samter gave his moment. I give my moment. Overcoming adversity in sports. What is your moment?
All right, mine is from the NBA, April 12th, 2013. A game that didn't really mean too much. The Lakers weren't a very good team that year. It was one of their more disappointing seasons. Kobe Bryant tears his Achilles, gets up, and not only takes 2 free throws, but makes 2 free throws. Obviously doesn't have a whole lot of meaning in terms of like winning a championship, scoring titles, all that, but it just is one of those things that stands out to me about Kobe, and I think is one of the heroic moments.
So anytime that moment gets mentioned, it sparks a memory of a player that I'm not a big fan of, really, but Carson Wentz against the Rams, where he tore his ACL, stayed on the field, and threw a touchdown pass to, I believe, Jordan Matthews. They did go on to win that division at the end of that game, but we found out Wentz did leave after that touchdown that he tore his ACL, and he still completed that touchdown pass. It's something that is similar, but obviously in the annals of sports history, a lot more people are going to remember the greatness of Kobe Bryant than the one great year that Carson Wentz did have. One more, and I think this is the top. I think this is the creme de la creme. And I think every sports fan remembers this moment, even if you weren't alive, like I wasn't alive, but you just get told it. The Kirk Gibson 1988 World Series home run. And then they call, I don't believe what I just saw. That when you basically were playing with both legs hurt, and you have that moment and the home run and the fist pump rounds in first base, that is an all-time overcoming adversity type of moment. All righty. Good job there. That was a fun segment. I'm sure Manny Rodriguez isn't happy with me because I usurped him on his breaking news.
Not happy at all.
Oh, tough luck. What's the name of the show? It's the Zach Gelb Show. We got to react to it. We got to react to it. I got to give an opinion. You just give the news. I give my opinions to the news.
Yeah, you should have gave your opinion 6 minutes.
Nah.
In 6 minutes after I finish my update, get a little commercial break. You can stew with it, for 5-6 minutes. I ain't going to get any take.
No.
I hate you.
See, you hate me.
I love you.
You applied for a producer position today. I don't know if this is good.
Today.
I don't know if this is you interviewed. I don't know if this is good producing advice. Like if you were telling the host that you should just wait to go to the update. I don't know about that.
Stop being a crybaby like Carlisle, man. You know it's all love. Get out of here.
I'm just having fun.
I'm having more fun.
I'm just throwing elbows around, and Manny's like, oh.
Throwing elbows like Joel Embiid, too.
No, that would be. That means I'd be grabbing you by your leg, and you'd be falling on the floor.
Hey,
I felt bad for Mitchell Robinson last night when I saw him limp out with that boot on his foot. Just felt absolutely terrible.
Very cryptic tweets as well.
Oh yeah, he's not happy.
No, well, and it's a private Twitter account too. But I digress.
Oh, are you? You have access to the private Twitter, Mitchell Robinson?
Yeah, I mean, I followed him when he got drafted,
so
and then he went private.
You have to follow him, and he has to accept the follow.
Well, yeah, but back then, when I followed
Smaller
his account,
following.
it was a smaller following, and it was public. So,
Okay, fair enough. All righty. He is Manny Rodriguez, dressed very nicely today.
Thank you, buddy.
In a suit, blue shirt. I don't know how much I love the tie.
Why?
I don't know.
Why? Why do you hate it?
I think it's just too much.
How?
I think
matches.
it's too much. You have the blue, the white.
You should see my sunglasses.
The
They're
orange,
also blue.
Two different color oranges.
Mixed colors.
Thank you, Stu. Look at somebody with
I
a brain.
know, but like it's a little too much. Like does everything with Manny these days have to be about the Knicks?
Yes. Are you kidding me? I've literally never been here before.
I'm telling you, there are some people that I just see on social media. Like I get it, you're a big Knicks fan. I don't need to. Every second of your day is occupied by the Knicks following your social media.
Yeah.
You do other things than watch the Knicks, right? Like you're still eating, correct?
Yeah, I just had some scrumptious McDonald's.
McDonald's?
Yeah.
What'd you get?
A couple of McChickens, large fries.
You guys are all eating fast food today. Santa got a Shake Shack. You're getting McDonald's. Stu, what did you have today?
He's shaming us now.
I ate sweet greens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good job. Good job by Stu, being healthy. I had today, late night last night.
Salad stew.
So I went a little bit unhealthier than normal. I went to my local bagel place, got a whole wheat everything bagel with some egg whites and some well done bacon, no cheese. No cheese.
I had a bacon, egg, and cheese this morning.
Wow,
Oh no.
you had a bacon, egg, and cheese at McDonald's?
Yeah, baby.
You need a plumber?
No, not at all. Don't you worry about that.
Because I'm very concerned about your toilet situation.
No, you don't worry. Well, I mean, I'm here for the next 4 hours, so if anything,
I'm concerned for our toilet situation. You weren't the one that left the floss. The floss stick.
No, yeah, I saw that on Twitter.
In the production scene.
No, that was not me.
Okay, just making sure.
No.
Just making sure.
No misinformation around here. It wasn't me.
All right, but come on back with the Zach Gelb Show PSA. Here is Manny Rodriguez.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, you just mentioned it. Some breaking NBA news. After signing a 5-year deal worth $31 million last summer, the Suns have fired head coach Frank Vogel. The team went 49-33 this season and were swept by the Minnesota Timberwolves in the first round of the playoffs. The Suns are now looking for their third head coach in 3 years. The playoffs continue tonight. The festivities will commence at 7 Eastern in Boston as the Celtics look to take a 2-0 series lead on the Cavaliers. But the Celtics will have to go on without their lead assistant coach, Charles Lee. The 39-year-old has been hired by the Charlotte Hornets to be their new head coach. Charlotte finished with a 21-61 record last season. Following the Cavs and Celtics, it'll be Thunder and Mavericks. A 9:30 Eastern tip. OKC leads the series 1-0. Elsewhere in the NBA, guard Patrick Beverley has been suspended 4 games by the NBA. The suspension comes after the soon-to-be unrestricted free agent forcefully threw a ball multiple times at fans and for an inappropriate interaction with a reporter following the Bucks' Game 6 loss to the Pacers. To the Stanley Cup Finals, the Rangers and Hurricanes will face off at 7 Eastern down in North Carolina. Following them at 9:30, it'll be the Stars and the Avalanche. Colorado has a 1-0 series lead. To the Diamond Top 6, Giants lead the Rockies 7-1. The D-backs beat the Reds 5-4, and the Twins cruise to an 11-1 win over the Mariners. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show. It is a Thursday, so let's get to the Zach Gelb Show PSA.
It's a Thursday. What do you have to say? It's the weekly Zach Gelb Show PSA.
Who's with me? Let's go! Come on!
All righty. I'm going to pivot here in the last second because I'm just reading more details about this Rashee Rice situation. So we all know what happened with him in the car and the accident and what he's facing there and all the charges. And he left the scene of the accident, and reportedly there was a lot of guns that were taken from the car as well. Well, I guess Rashee Rice was out the other night in Dallas, and he assaulted someone now. So a report obtained by the Dallas Morning News said the photographer left the party and then was summoned back by Rashee Rice. And Rashee Rice, to be clear, allegedly got into an altercation and punched this photographer in the face. So according to the Dallas Morning News on Thursday, revealed new details about what led up to the allegations of an assault in which police suspect the Kansas City Chiefs' Rashee Rice did taken part of. The report obtained by the News through a public record said a suspect assaulted a photographer after luring him back to a downtown Dallas nightclub under the premise he was being hired to take pictures. Officers dispatched for reports of the assault, and according to the police report, the photographer believed the suspect wanted to hire him to take pictures. When he returned, he was made aware of where the suspect was by other members of the suspect's entourage, the report said. The photographer found the suspect, who told him to look at Instagram messages on his phone, according to the report, and the report does not detail what the messages were. As the photographer looked down at the suspect's phone, the suspect then punched him on the left side of the face, the report said. The photographer ended up going to the hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. A police spokesperson said the law enforcement officials told the News the man had visible swelling on one side of his face. Here's my PSA. When you're in hot water, don't dump more hot water on yourself. Think about how dumb this is. I thought at first that Rashee Rice was just out, got in an incident with the photographer, and right in the moment, he punched the photographer in the face. Would have been stupid. But the fact that this photographer was reportedly there, then left, and Rice and his crew messaged the photographer to come on back, and they said, we're going to have you take pictures of us, and we'll employ you. And the photographer comes back, and you go, oh, check these messages, and you punch him in the face. Rashee Rice has reached just a new level of stupidity. So once again, when you are in a sticky situation and you already have pending stuff that is going to take you away from the football field, don't give people more reasons to then make that suspension get augmented. So stupid by Rashee Rice.
I'll just add to this real quick. I don't know if you've seen this scouting report from an anonymous scout from before he got drafted.
No, I did not.
Saying Rashee Rice has athletic ability and production to be a high draft pick. However, at least one team has removed him from his draft board because of behavioral issues. Quote, he's talented, but he's not a good dude. This was from his draft scout profile. Right. It does not seem like they were wrong about that.
Like, could you imagine, Samter, if let's say I got arrested for something, and then let's say you were a photographer and I had an issue with you taking my picture when I'm out for dinner. And then you leave and I message you, hey, I actually want you to hire me. I actually want to hire you to take photos of me and my friends. You come back and then I punch you in the face. Like, you already are facing more serious allegations. Why would you make something so small into a much bigger deal? It's just because you're a dope. That's the only way I could say it. I try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I can't give Rashee Rice the benefit of the doubt. All right, Samter, what's your PSA here?
Stu's going to go next.
Oh, Stu, what do we got?
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I am going to go with the NBA needs to be better with their scheduling. Now, I know the Nuggets and Timberwolves series started the second round. This series started before all the other ones, so that's kind of why they're waiting to play Game 3. But they played Game 2 on Monday.
Yeah.
They play Game 3 on Friday, tomorrow. Every other series plays 2 games in between. I just don't get why. Like, the Timberwolves have all the momentum going to series. I feel like they're going to lose a tiny bit of that. I know they're going home, but they're going to lose a tiny bit of that because there's 4 days off in between. Why is there 4 days off in between? If that's the case, they should have waited to start the series when the other one started instead of starting it earlier and then having to have this big gap. To me, it just doesn't make any sense to me. I don't get it.
Sam, to take us home, what do we got cooking?
Just real quick, I don't know if you've seen this viral video of the fight on the golf course between this young drunk kid and an older guy.
No.
So it's this viral video that's going around, and it's absolutely fantastic. This drunk guy is on the golf course talking junk to a bunch of older guys, and he's like, oh, you can't get it up anymore. No wonder your wife left you. And then the old guy, he's got to be in his 60s, goes after him, and, the drunk kid starts pushing him and then gets his ass whooped by this older gentleman.
Good for the older gentleman.
And you watch the extended video, it's just a bunch of young drunk idiots causing trouble, instigating with these older guys, and the older guys come off looking like the jerks because they're the ones who were caught on video. But at the end of the day, they're not the instigators. Here's my PSA. If you're going to start something, if you're going to get drunk and talk smack, if you're going to get drunk and act a big game, then you better damn well finish the deal. And don't act like a victim when you get your ass handed to you when you started the drama in the first place. I loved watching this video and watching this young drunk punk getting his ass handed to him by Grandpa. It was absolutely classic, and he deserved every second of it. He is not a victim, no matter what they try to say in the video of him getting his butt whipped. He deserved every second of it, and I love it.
You know how Happy Gilmore 2, they're supposed to have Happy Gilmore 2? I think they should recreate the Sandler Bob Barker scene with these two guys. That's what they should do. That's how they should cast it.
You know, it's funny. The first time I saw this video, I think it was yesterday.
That's what you thought of?
The post said Barker Gilmore 2.
Because I just searched the video.
Yep.
It's a very sloppy fight.
Yep.
Like, if it's the same, I'm assuming it's the same video. Well, I would like to think there's not multiple videos of this, but it wouldn't surprise me these days. There's like some kicking. There's some flailing of the arms. It's a very it's not technically like a great fight where you're seeing like great punches for punches. Does he even get knocked out ever? It looks like at least the video I saw, that just spins away.
No, they kind of spin away. The guy who's taking the video is friends with the young drunk guy, and he's like, hey, hold on, chill out, stop. What do you mean chill out, stop? You guys have been instigating and poking the bear the whole time. Now you're getting your comeuppance. Deal with it and suck it up. Put the phone down and help your friend, you idiot.
Comeuppance. I like that. You don't usually hear that word anymore. Good job, Samter. Alrighty, we will take a time out. When we come on back on the Infinity Sports Network, it's the Zach Gelb Show. We brought up Brad Holmes' comments a little bit earlier featuring Jared Goff. We'll play that again. What's the future of Jared Goff in Detroit, Dak Prescott in Dallas, and Tua Tagovailoa in Miami? We'll talk about that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
And beyond. He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Yo, yo! It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Big news, as we told you about a half hour ago. Kevin Durant, he strikes again. No, he's not requesting a trade. But Frank Vogel, fired, donezo, out, finished, finito with the Phoenix Suns. One season coach of the team, and he gets fired. Paul Hembo over at ESPN, Hembo does a good job. He put out a tweet. Kenny Atkinson, Steve Nash, Jock Vaughn, Monty Williams, Frank Vogel, some new guy. 6 coaches, 6 seasons, 1 common denominator. And that common denominator would be KD. I'm telling you, the legacy of Kevin Durant, it's fascinating. Because a lot of us would like to have the career in the NBA that would resemble Kevin Durant. He's an all-time great. But there are different sectors in the fraternity of being an all-time great player. And for Durant, he's not a tier 1 all-time great player. But he is a 2-time NBA champion, a 2-time Finals MVP, a most valuable player award winner in 2014. He's been an all-star 14 times. You know what Durant has done. Durant has been one of the better players in the NBA for over a decade. But the insecurity of making a move that made you a villain and then no longer wanting to embrace that villain and then letting what people said get to you then made him go on to a place where you have to win a championship without the Golden State Warriors. And I know there were injuries when he left Golden State. He goes to Brooklyn. They won 1 playoff series. 1. Guys that he wanted to be teammates with, guys that he brought in, Kyrie Irving and James Harden. They wanted to kill one another. And then he bailed and he goes to Phoenix, right? They make these trades. Oh, we got to go get, to compliment myself and Devin Booker, we got to go get Bradley Beal. And then you have no bench. And this team, once again, underachieved. Like the Suns, I know it hasn't all been with KD, but the last 4 years, they've had some really ugly losses. Like they were up 2-0 in the finals. I know KD wasn't there. They lost 4 straight to the Bucks. Then the year after that, they get embarrassed up against the Dallas Mavericks in an elimination game. And then last year, right up against Denver, they allowed like 80-something points or whatever it was in the first half. And then you turn into this year where it was like, okay, just get healthy, just get healthy, just get healthy. And then they got healthy going into postseason, and you get swept out of the first round by the Minnesota Timberwolves. So 2 years in now, year and a half in, let's just say, in Phoenix, because I know not all those were directly related to when Durant was there. This Durant situation has been an unmitigated disaster in Phoenix. And I'm at the point, Durant's not going to win a championship again. Because, like, I'll ask you guys this. Do you think Durant is going to play for another team? Is Kevin Durant going to eventually bail? We've seen him play in OKC, right? Seattle, OKC. Then we've seen him play in Golden State, then the Nets, and now the Suns. He's 35. Kevin Durant turns 36 in September. I don't know how much longer Kevin Durant's going to play. I can't see him playing, like, I'm going to say 3 or 4 more years, probably max. But is Kevin Durant's final destination the Phoenix Suns? Samter, what do you say?
No chance.
Stu, do you think this is his final destination?
I agree with Mike. I think he goes somewhere else at some point.
Yeah, I'm with you guys because this is what this guy does. Even when it's going well, the guy bails. And I don't think wherever he goes, it's going to be a place, especially when you get later and later in your career, where and how much money you're going to be required to get paid, that what we're seeing right now is going to be anything different. And quite frankly, it would be really lame if he does leave Phoenix. Like, I'm with you guys. I don't think he's going to stay the rest of his career in Phoenix. But it's really lame because you left Golden State. Okay. And let me just try to at least understand the Golden State thing. You got annoyed that everyone said your championships were basically fugazi because you were with the Thunder. They blew that lead to the Warriors. If you can't beat them, join them. They already had a super team. They already had a great team that won a championship. Okay. So they had an all-time great regular season. You know, the Cavs come back 3-1. Then Draymond's basically begging KD to go there. I give credit to LeBron. When LeBron, who was so well-liked in Cleveland, then became a villain going to Miami, he embraced it. And ultimately, I don't think he would have left Miami if it wasn't for his relationship with Pat Riley deteriorating. But more importantly, it was Dwayne Wade slowed down a lot quicker than people thought. And unfortunately, you know, the health situation with Chris Bosh. So what he went to it was successful, right? 2 championships, 4 years. But we all thought when LeBron did go to South Beach and he took his talent to South Beach, it would have lasted a lot longer than that. But health plays a role into it. So LeBron didn't think he would win a championship again in Miami, which he was right about. And he went back to Cleveland. And that's the most important championship of his career, the Cleveland Cavaliers championship. You look at the other 3 championships for LeBron, I think the Lakers one is extremely important because no one thought it was going to happen. And I would say probably from a historical standpoint, since KD beat LeBron a few times in the finals, I would say him beating KD with OKC is probably the 3rd most important championship. Maybe you could argue 2, but probably 3. And then the Spurs one is the 4th, even though we know the Spurs are dynasty. But getting back to LeBron embraced being the villain. And LeBron didn't leave because he didn't like being the villain anymore. Kevin Durant left Golden State because he was viewed as the villain, and it drove him crazy on social media that people were just saying, Your championships aren't really authentic. But if KD would have won 4 or 5 championships, right, with Golden State, and he continued to win the finals MVPs, which he did in his 2 championships, I understand there would still be a good fraction of the people and a good portion of the people that would never let the decision go. But eventually, even though Steph Curry is now viewed as a better player than Kevin Durant, people would have said, well, if KD kept on getting those finals MVPs, eventually it becomes your team. Like LeBron, when he did go to Miami, that was Dwayne Wade's team. But we all knew LeBron was the best player. When KD elected to go to Golden State, we all knew Steph, it was his team, but KD was viewed as the better player. But historically, since Steph won before KD, during KD, and after KD, Steph's going to be viewed as the better player all time. For Durant, if he would have just kept on winning with Steph in Golden State, and he was the guy that kept on winning those finals MVPs, because remember, that was the thing with Steph. Like, Steph never won a finals MVP until the last championship after KD. But if he would have just kept on doing that, Durant, and initially stuck with what he decided, like, eventually I would have even, and I didn't have an issue with it to start, so maybe I'm different, but I would have waved the white flag and be like, guys, he won 4 or 5 championships. Like, clearly, he was the most essential piece of that if he would have stayed and kept on winning. But he didn't do that. And Barkley said what Barkley said. He's more the bus rider than the bus driver. And that's going to stick with him. And it's rare, right? When you tell me someone's probably a top 15 player of all time, it's rare that the first thought out of your mouth isn't a positive kind of compliment, right? But with Durant, maybe I'm off base here, but I don't think so. I feel like with Kevin Durant, if he doesn't win another championship, which I don't believe he will, people are going to look at Kevin Durant and be like, yeah, he got the 2 championships. Yeah, he got 2 finals MVPs. But when he tried to go do it on his own, it was a mess in Brooklyn. It was a mess in Phoenix when they're now on another coach. And it's really going to make the Durant legacy a difficult legacy. And you know what his legacy is? He's a yeah, but. And what I mean by that is everyone's going to say Durant is an all-time great player. Durant's a top 15 player of all time. Yeah, but he left Golden State and he couldn't win being the driver of the bus. You know what kind of reminds me of a little bit? Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, you are a top 10 quarterback of all time. Yeah, but it is disappointing. He got a Super Bowl, won Super Bowl early in his career, and never got back to another Super Bowl. So the Durant legacy to me is the yeah, but legacy. Sam Tur, Stu, let me ask you guys this. Durant doesn't win another title. What are you going to think about when it comes to defining the legacy of Kevin Durant? I'll start with Stu.
Top 20 player of all time that probably could have been top 10, closer to top 5 if, like you said, it wasn't for the yeah buts. I think he is going to have a flawed legacy, and it's a shame because he's honestly probably one of the best players if you just look at him as a player that we've watched in our lifetime. The people that are like around our age,
which
late 20s,
is similar
early 30s.
to Rodgers, right?
Yeah,
like talent perspective, Rodgers is insane.
Very close.
And it's like funny, like Marino was insane, never won a championship. We all look at Dan Marino as a top 5 quarterback or, top 7 quarterback of all time, however you want to kind of go through that. But when you win early in your career and you don't win again, and you are that talented like Rodgers and Durant, it's like, okay, why didn't you win more? And I don't think that's unfair. Like, no one's saying Durant sucks. No one's saying, oh, Durant isn't, like you said, top 20. Fine. Like I said top 15, but you could make a case. But no one's going to say, oh, he's not a top 20 player of all time. I don't think people are going to say that. But it's just one of those things where it's like, huh. Unfortunately, that decision which he got killed for, and since he kind of bowed down to the crowd and genuflected to the crowd that was killing him for making that decision, they end up costing him because he should have just, he should have just stayed there. And maybe I'm wrong here, and maybe you guys think differently, and tell me if you do. If he would have stayed in Golden State and won four championships, let's just say 4 championships, and he would have won 4 finals MVPs, don't you eventually just have to let go how annoyed you were that he left OKC to go to the Golden State Warriors? You win 4 NBA championships and 4 finals MVPs. I don't care how you won them. If you can't tip your cap to that guy, you're just an unfair and unreasonable human being. So, Santa, how will you remember the legacy of Durant if, let's just say, he doesn't win another championship?
Charles Barkley is my spirit animal. It's just bus rider.
Yeah.
That's really all it is. Like that's gonna be a label that sticks with Kevin Durant for the rest of his life because that's exactly what he is. When he was the guy, he won nothing. When he joined a super team, he was elite and great and won titles and MVPs
and hit big game winning shots
and hit
in LeBron's face.
And honestly, he kind of did a lot of that, even with the Nets. If his foot was a half an inch smaller, he beats the Bucks that year.
And
but
you know what? That
actually
probably is the moment in his career since leaving OKC that got him the most praise. A series that he lost. How well he played with Harden in and out of the lineup on one leg and Kyrie missing, getting hurt early in the series and missing the series. It's kind of wild because usually we don't reward losing. Durant got rewarded for losing. And you know what the irony is, too? You said Barkley, Samter, just like how I kind of said it. Barkley don't have a championship. And it's just so funny to me that Barkley, who doesn't have a championship and is considered still an all-time great player. You could be an all-time great player without a championship. But it's funny that since Barkley doesn't have a championship and how powerful his voice is inside the NBA, and him saying that, just the source to me is always it's a great irony in it. That someone else couldn't win a championship on their own, and then Barkley makes that analogy and makes that comment, and that's what's going to stick with Kevin Durant.
Outside of those 4 years in Houston, Barkley was never a bus rider, right? Even though he didn't win a title, when he was in Philly, when he was in Phoenix, he was the driver, right? He may not have won, but he was never a bus rider. Towards the end of his career, when he tried to ring chase, maybe a little bit. That's different.
Okay.
Right? Ring chasing when you're 35, at the end of your career, about to retire, different story. He was never a bus rider. That's the difference, right? There's a difference between not winning a title and not being the leader of a team and not being the guy on a team. And Kevin Durant, for too long, has not been the guy on a team.
It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. And when he is the guy, Brooklyn and the Suns didn't get the job done. And here's here's a bigger takeaway too. And this also goes back to Rodgers. There's a lot of times in sports where I'm not saying you shouldn't give players power. I'm not saying players shouldn't be involved in some decision making. But when you hand over an organization to a player and basically make them the de facto GM, which what Durant was in Phoenix and what Durant was in Brooklyn and still is in Phoenix, and what Rodgers was trying to be in Green Bay at the end, and what he's been in New York so far. I'm okay with allowing my star players to voice their input, but when they're making almost every decision, just because you're a star player doesn't mean you're a good general manager. And the decisions that Durant and Rodgers have made have not really worked out well for them. Like, remember when Rodgers did that press conference at Green Bay where he was so disappointed about all the players that were let go by the Packers? Like, who were those players that ended up continuing to be great once the Packers got rid of them? So I'm not saying don't get input from your stars, but you don't live and die by every word that they say. And that's something for Rodgers and Durant where they got that power. And unfortunately for them, it's just one of those moments where it's not unfortunate for them. And I know we got to get to Chris Childs, so I'll take a break. But it's not unfortunate for them, but it's just one of those scenarios where since they were so adamant on getting all this control and making it their way, that you can't just bow out and tiptoe out of accountability when it doesn't go right. And for both those guys, it feels like they usually avoid taking the own personal accountability. It is the Zach Gelb Show. Chris Childs will join us next.
You're in a 5-minute break. 4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Infinity Sports Network.
All righty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Let's hear from Brad Holmes one more time. This is on Costa and Jansen on the ticket in Detroit when getting asked about an extension for Jared Goff.
First and foremost, he's earned an extension, and it's important. It's a high priority for us, and both sides are working really, really hard. These things just kind of take a while, especially with the quarterback market. But I do have faith that it's going to get done.
So Goff, Tua, and Dak, all three of these guys right now, I guess they're getting games played with them with their GMs, where it's one of these scenarios where Jerry Jones playing the most games where he's telling you he loves Dak Prescott, but the feeling is that they're not going to get a deal done this offseason, right? They reduced the salary by 5%, the cap hit, I should say, by 5%. And then a lot of people thought it was advantageous to get a new deal, and then you could restructure the salary and lower that $60 million cap hit before free agency started. Heck, we're already past free agency. We're already past the draft. So I don't think Dak is getting a new deal this offseason. And quite frankly, if I'm Dak, and I've said this before, I would leave. You can guarantee yourself free agency this year because you have a no tag clause. So I would play out this season. If you play well, they'll want to keep you. But if you don't want to put up with the drama again with the Dallas Cowboys, then you get out. And then you leave. And I think that's the right decision by Dak Prescott. When you get to Tua and Jared Goff, the Dolphins with this regime, with Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel, they have doubled and tripled down in terms of what they've said about Tua. But they have not financially rewarded him yet. And if they wanted to, I don't think this is a good idea, but you could do it. With him playing in his fifth-year option year, you have the authority and the ability to franchise tag him for up to 2 years. I would not give the deal to Tua right now because I don't think we've seen enough sustained success from Tua. I think we are in love with the idea of Tua compared to what the reality of Tua has been. And for Tua Tagovailoa, he was supposed to be the guy when he was at Alabama, like the next big-time prospect at the quarterback position. Unfortunate injuries, ankle, hip, and he fell a little bit in the draft. Now, he was still the second quarterback off the board. Burrow went 1. Tua then was the second quarterback off the board at 5, and Justin Herbert was 6. So when you say he fell, it wasn't like he fell like Will Levis did from being a top 5 pick, people thought, which I didn't think, to then being outside of the first 32 picks and being a second-round pick. And he didn't fall like Aaron Rodgers, who could have been the first overall pick. It ended up being Alex Smith, and then Rodgers goes 20-something overall. So there's different levels of falling. But Tua did fall from what we thought he was supposed to be. And in the NFL, all last year was about staying healthy, staying healthy, staying healthy. He stayed healthy. But just because you have one good year, that was good. Statistically, top 5. But when you watch him, they beat up on a lot of bad teams. And when he got into big games, he did not play well. Against Kansas City twice, against Buffalo at the end of the season, Tua did not play well. So I'm not giving Tua Tagovailoa one of these $50 million a year contracts. 53, 54, 55 million, the going rate for what good quarterbacks that get paid great quarterback money. I'm not giving him that deal right now. I want to see Tua play in back-to-back seasons of being a good quarterback. And I'm fair. Tua, you go be good once again, and you do this for back-to-back seasons, even though we haven't seen that greatness in a long time, then I understand what the market is. I understand what's going to happen. They're going to give him one of those deals. But to give him that deal now, I think it could be one of those scenarios that we've seen where in a few years from now, if you give him the deal this offseason, the Dolphins are like, we regret that. And then you have one of these enormous record-breaking cap hits, which teams are now more inclined to eat. And you eat them, but it's not something that tastes all that good. And then you get to Jared Goff. Jared Goff is one of the more disrespected good quarterbacks we've seen. Now, let's be honest here. He was supposed to be great. He was a number 1 overall pick, and he has not played consistently at a level that you expect with a number 1 overall pick. When I hear number 1 overall pick, I think Hall of Famer, without a doubt, franchise quarterback, top 5 quarterback in the league. Jared Goff won't be a Hall of Famer. Jared Goff isn't the face of a franchise. And Jared Goff isn't someone that is viewed as a top 5 great quarterback in the league. But you put Jared Goff in the right situation, you could win with Jared Goff. Rams had a good roster. Jared Goff, with the Rams, got to a Super Bowl. Unfortunately for Jared Goff, in the Super Bowl, your defense played well enough to win. You were held to 3 points. And once that happened, Sean McVay realized the moment, and Sean McVay said, we could get to a Super Bowl with Jared Goff, but if we're going to put our team in the best position to win a Super Bowl, it's better if we go get someone else. That was Matthew Stafford. They won a Super Bowl. Now, Goff goes to Detroit as an afterthought, right? It was a throw-in the deal because the Rams are getting Stafford. Goff goes to Detroit, basically attached with an extra first-round pick. So Detroit gets 2 first-round picks for Matthew Stafford. No one ever thought Goff was going to get an extension in Detroit. Goff was viewed as a placeholder for an eventual franchise quarterback. He just was. But Goff redefined his career and exceeded expectations. Where now, think about where you are. Like, if Jared Goff is the quarterback in Green Bay, probably not the standard. Probably not accepted. Because in Green Bay, we've seen back-to-back quarterbacks. Love just is year 1 as a starter. But you saw excellence from Favre, Super Bowl, Hall of Fame. Excellence from Rodgers, Super Bowl, Hall of Fame. Jared Goff hasn't won a Super Bowl yet and won't be a Hall of Fame quarterback. So if Jared Goff is in Green Bay, I think it's a more active conversation as to should the Packers give him an extension. But since he's in Detroit, and I know Detroit and Matthew Stafford, but there was never a time in Detroit where we looked at the Lions with Matthew Stafford and said, that's a Super Bowl contender. You enter this season with the Lions as the Lions being a bona fide Super Bowl contender. In the NFC, the 3 legitimate Super Bowl contenders that you feel most confident in are with the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Lions. Those are the 3 top Super Bowl contenders in the NFC. It's not Manny Rodriguez's Giants, I'll tell you that. Manny's just catching strays today. That's what happens when you dress up in a suit to a radio station. That's just the reality of the situation. But
I'm a normal person on the streets, but over here I get bullied. But I digress.
You're not getting bullied. Oh, stop it. We've all done that where we've worn suits to work. And people go, job interview or funeral. That's what it is when you're in radio. It's just the reality of the situation. And also, when did this become a thing? That you're applying for a position. Is this Hickey's fault? Because Hickey wore that tuxedo when the morning show had a producer opening. So is Hickey now like one of the locker room leaders? That some of the, like, Manny, you are, how many years have you been here? You've been here for a good time now.
About 2 years now.
2 years, but considered, right, younger on the roster. So do like people now look up to Ryan Hickey?
No.
I think so. I think he did, because you're not wearing that suit if Hickey doesn't wear a tuxedo the last time the job interview did go down.
I didn't even know Hickey. I don't know.
Oh, that's such a lie. You follow it. You knew Hickey wore a tuxedo
position?
For the Maggie and Perloff position. Morning show producer.
I'm
lying.
Unaware. I'm unaware.
Pinocchio, I see. Your nose is going to hit the microphone for crying out loud in a second. Of course you did. You knew that. Is this a Hickey issue, Stu?
I don't know. I've worn a suit before for interviews here, so I don't think that's like a trend.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
Did you show up in a polo when you interviewed?
I didn't get interviewed.
Oh, wow.
I didn't get interviewed.
Oh, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen.
I met at the Super Bowl with Eric Spitz. He goes, we have a weekend overnight opening. He goes, we think you'd be a good fit. Come do a few shows. We'll let you know if you get the job. I got a phone call about 3 weeks later saying, okay, you're going to be the weekend overnight host. That's about it. When I did have to interview for a radio job, though, my first job out of college, I wore slacks. Sorry, not slacks, like khaki pants and a polo. I don't know. Suits in a radio interview. In the real world, that seems like that's what happens. In the radio world, that doesn't seem how it goes down. But anyway, I digress. Getting back to Jared Goff real quickly. When you were the quarterback of the Lions, you have Super Bowl expectations. I think you get the key to the city. I do. And we talk about like what ifs all the time. Imagine they don't get the deal done with Jared Goff. And then, yes, they could franchise tag him. I get him in that. But like, let's say he gets annoyed and he wants out of the organization. And then the Lions never restore what they're doing right now. What if they would have paid him? I don't think the Lions are in a position where they could afford to play the what if game. So here's what I think is going to happen. By the start of the season, I believe Jared Goff will get an extension. Tua, I think, has a chance, but I think the Dolphins will ultimately wait and make him play out this year. Dak, there's no chance he gets an extension. This is going to be a standoff at the end of the season. And we're going to see if Dak Prescott, who I think the ball's in his court, wants to stay with the Dallas Cowboys. Because Jerry's made things uncomfortable before with Dak Prescott. And Dak has won in the past financially. So I don't think Jerry's annoyed with making it uncomfortable again. I think he actually embraces it because it creates drama and it creates talking points. But I believe it's more of a decision, does Dak want the extension? And that will be decided at the end of the season. Because he has the power to go to free agency. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll come on back. Luka Doncic. Why the first half is more important than the second half for him coming up this evening. I'll tell you why on the other side. Update time. Here he is. Oh, you took the coat off. You took the sports coat off. Now you're getting a little loose here. You're unbuttoning a little bit.
It's hot, man. It's hot. Suddenly it's not.
Why didn't you you should have brought a change of clothes?
Yeah, I was running late this morning. Stop. Leave me alone.
What do you mean you were running late? Too much partying after the next one last night?
I couldn't. I was too excited to fall. You know the Kelly Kapoor meme?
Oh, yeah.
I'm too excited to sleep. I was up until about, I don't know, 12:45, just scrolling Nick's Twitter.
Okay. What time did you have to get into that?
Get in? I mean, I got in at 10 in the morning.
And how long's the commute?
For me, it's about 40 minutes, 50 minutes.
And when was your first on-air shift today?
It was at noon.
Noon?
1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. Check that. 1:30.
Okay. What time was the interview then?
10:30 in the morning.
Okay. So you still got 30 minutes to spare. But
yeah.
you're running late? You said you're running late?
Yeah, I had to catch the train.
Okay.
It's not a good sign when you're trying to
no.
become a producer that you're running late.
But he was early.
But I was still early to the building.
Way early.
I was late getting out of my house, but I still got here with
he was paranoid
half an hour
in his own
before
mind.
Yeah.
I do that. I do that all the time. When I have to show up to something, you were paranoid.
Yeah, I'm always paranoid.
That's worse. We need a producer who's going to be.
Are you not paranoid?
No.
Oh, come on. You're not. You don't worry at all.
I mean, not about producing the show. No, I'm cool, calm, collected. My experience has led me down a path where panic is not.
You're a worrier,
huh?
You're a worrier.
Not about the show, but maybe about life.
Oh, that's not a good sign then.
No, I don't need to worry about the show because I got it on lockdown.
Do we want a producer who's always worried about life on this radio station?
I'm okay if the producer worries. I'm fine. I want my producer to worry. That means they care. That's not like a negative thing to you, Santa. That means that you care. But how long does it? You just have too much on your plate because, I don't know, get an extra pair of clothes doesn't take that much time off your path.
Listen, my living situation right now isn't optimal, so I had to walk around like a church mouse at my house.
Gotcha. So you were tiptoeing
a little bit.
Okay,
and that slowed things down.
You know what? I'll cut you some slack. Give him the job.
Thank you.
If it's up to me, hire him. It's not up to me though.
Yeah.
I have no say in this job.
Don't you? Zillion or Zach doesn't have any
zero.
Say?
They may say, hey, who are some people you may recommend if you had a producer opening? But I don't think this is not my show. That's not my.
Zillion or Zach is a zero.
I am not putting my nose into this situation. I'm just not. I'm not going to put my hands in this situation. I'm going to let the powers that be determine this hire, and I wish the best to you. I wish the best to everyone applying. I'm going to be a politician, Zach, today.
Good guy, Gelb.
I want everyone to get the job. You know, Pat Boyle was sitting here. If Carlos Ortiz was sitting here. If Chris Hess, whoever was sitting here. Yeah, I'd want you to get the job. I think you're very good at what you do.
I appreciate it.
I will say that.
Thanks.
I think you're hardworking, and I think you're very diverse in terms of you try to do a bunch of different things. You know,
I do.
Hosting updates and producing as well. And there's some people, right? You give them a few on-air shifts, and they start feeling themselves, and they're like, "Oh, I don't have to do the behind-the-scenes things." That's not Manny Rodriguez.
No, I still do the behind-the-scenes thing.
Yeah, you do it a lot.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll
take a timeout.
Sure.
Good endorsement right there from Manny Rodriguez. The bosses are listening. Just say so myself. Just forget the part where he's like, oh, he's running late. Talking about Luka Doncic next. Here's Manny.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
All right, Zach, we'll start with coaching changes in the NBA. The Phoenix Suns have fired head coach Frank Vogel. The team went 49-33 this season, but were swept by the Timberwolves in the first round of the playoffs.
What arena did the Suns play in?
That would be, oh, man.
What did you put on your shoes today?
Socks. Footprint Center. The Phoenix Suns went 49-33 this season, but they were swept by the Timberwolves in the first round of the playoffs. Vogel was in his first year of a 4-year contract. Charlotte Hornets have hired Celtics lead assistant Charles Lee. The former Patriot League Player of the Year at Bucknell reportedly inked a 4-year deal. Knicks forward OG Anunoby has been ruled out for Game 3 with a left hamstring strain. In the NHL, after falling to the Boston Bruins in 7 games of the first round of the playoffs, the Toronto Maple Leafs have fired coach Sheldon Keefe. The team finished with 102 points, which placed them third in the Atlantic Division. Baseball, the Astros lead the Yankees 3-0 top 2. Earlier today, Corbin Carroll's ribby single pushed the D-backs past the Rays 5-4. The Twins, they put up a 5 spot in the first inning. They cruised to an 11-1 win over the Mariners. The Giants were up 1-0, but then the Rockies exploded for 9 unanswered. They get the win 9-1. I'm Manny Rodriguez.
This is the Infinity Sports Network. Follow us on X. Our handle is INF Sports Network. That's INF Sports Network on X.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. 2 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Hey, this is Howie. And this is Nick. From the Factory Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh my God, we're back again.
It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. Bobby Marks, he said, including the next coach in Phoenix, Kevin Durant since 2019-2020 has 5 head coaches. Devin Booker since 2015 to 2016, 7 head coaches. Bradley Beal since 2012 to 2013, 5 head coaches. It's a lot of change. That's a lot of craziness. Pete DeBoer, the coach of the Stars, he had a pretty good line. Let me just pull it up here. It just triggered a thought when I was going through all those coaches. A buddy of mine sent this today. This is from Pierre LeBrun, who covers hockey for a long time. Hold on. For some reason, that's not going to... Can we copy that? Boom. Let's just see. Let's paste it in here. I know this does not make for the greatest radio in the world, but it's a funny quote once we get it for you. Okay, here we go. I asked Pete DeBoer, this is Pierre LeBrun, about having 19 head coaching changes in the NHL since the end of last season. Quote, it's insanity. We coach in an age where everyone talks about the modern athlete, building relationships in order to coach them. How do you do that with that kind of turnover? It's like going on a date and getting married and divorced before the appetizers show up. I don't get it, but that's the world we live in. You think anyone's ever got divorced at their wedding before the appetizers show up? I'm sure there is. Like, you cheated on me? I found out about that. Oh, that's it. I'm done. You ever see those, like, viral videos? They're, like, pranks. Where I don't think they're actually, like, real videos. I think it's designed as a prank. Where someone shows up to the wedding and they found out that they got cheated on, and then they reveal it while reading their vows. I've seen those on like TikTok. I don't think those are actually genuine videos, but I'm sure it's happened somewhere before. So I always get a kick out of those. It's a good line there by Pete DeBoer. Let's hear from Evan Turner. He was on the Point Forward podcast, which is his own podcast with Andre Iguodala. He rips Paul George. Listen up.
PG would be really good with the Pacers. Pacers would be scary.
But I think their kryptonite would always be what it is. Either Halliburton would have to mature into like the go-to game ender, or PG is just going to. A Halliburton matchup might be cakewalk to certain people, G. Like, you know what I mean? Like coming down the stretch. Like that's not in no disrespectful sense. But then I'm just saying because that's the only best option because PG has a history of not showing up, which is an understatement. Just the other day, I never met a human that will let a media rumor drive his like energy or personality. Like somebody was like, I heard he going to Philly. And he was like, you know what? I'm going to Philly, G. Do you know how soft that team going to be if him and Embiid go together? It'd probably be the most skilled duo ever since Kobe and Shaq. Embiid to be hurt and PG going to be Paul though.
Wow. That's some damaging stuff from Evan Turner, who had a disappointing NBA career. But that's kind of crazy. But I'm not saying he's wrong. And Paul George can be sensitive, obviously, at times. But that's a big part of it. Like, a lot of people want to be a star, but can you handle what comes with being a star? And that's a lot of the media conversation, a lot of the rumors as well. Here is, let me play you one more before I get to my Luka Doncic point. This is Ian Rappaport, NFL Network. Future of Brandon Ayuk with the 49ers, since this has been a topic.
The Pearsall pick really made everyone scratch their heads and go, maybe they really are trading Brandon Ayuk. It doesn't seem like that is in the cards, at least right now. My understanding on the situation is that the 49ers are moving forward with Brandon Ayuk on their roster. Now, how much will he make next year? That's really the big question. They have been in contract negotiations, trying to get him to a long-term deal, trying to get to a point where he will accept their offer. And the fact that the receiver market for the really, really good receivers has been more defined over the last month or so helps. You figure that Brandon Ayuk will be somewhere in there. Exactly where remains to be seen. But again, my understanding is the focus is on bringing him back next season. They view him as a key part of their offense.
I think the longer this plays out, you keep seeing more and more of the 49ers basically saying they prefer to keep Brandon Ayuk over Deebo Samuel. And then I think it's more likely at this stage that Deebo's the one that gets traded than Ayuk. Maybe both are on the roster this season, but next offseason, you're going to have to make that decision to either pay Ayuk and keep him or trade him and then you get rid of Deebo Samuel. You're going to have to make that decision. And for Brandon Ayuk, it's do you want to be it's weird to say a good soldier here because you should get paid in the NFL, and I don't fault anyone for asking for money in the NFL because it's a lethal sport. But for Brandon Ayuk, will you go through this season where you're on your fifth you're on the fifth year of that deal? Because he was first round pick, right? I think this is a fifth year option. Yeah, so this is a fifth year option. So you're in your fifth year option, you get tagged after this. All right, they go down that road if they want to. But can you maybe bump up that salary and put some incentives on it this year, as we've seen in the past? So we'll see what ends up happening. But I think they want to keep Ayuk, and they'd be more willing to part ways with Deebo a year from now. Okay, let me make the final point of the day. Tonight in the NBA, in game number 1, you saw that sprained knee act up for Luka Doncic. Usually, a lot of us, let's just be honest with the NBA, you could parachute in for the final 5 minutes and be told everything about the NBA. Seems like whenever these games are blowouts, they usually come down to the final 5 minutes, unless the Phoenix Suns are involved in them. If they get blown out early, the Suns are usually toast. They're burnt. But with OKC and Dallas, I think the first 24 minutes are enormous tonight because you will see how much life Luka Doncic has in his legs. And if he has life in the first 24 minutes, okay, we have a series. But if he's hobbling around, if he looks slow, if he looks sluggish, and he looks lethargic because of the knee sprain, and you see that early, that's a bad sign in game 2 of this series. Because in game 1, it looked really, really, really bad. If this continues into game 2, especially in the first half, then OKC is going to be licking their chops. And they're going to be sitting there. And they're going to be saying, okay, this series may be over a lot sooner than what we thought because Luka Doncic isn't healthy. The appeal of the Mavericks is the 1-2 punch, Luka and Kyrie. But you need Luka healthy. Luka's not healthy right now, but how much can you sustain it? And how much can you not only fight through the pain, but play through the pain and still play at an elite level? We did not see that in Game 1. You have to see it early tonight in Game 2. All righty, that concludes the Zach Gelb Show on a Thursday on the Infinity Sports Network. Big thanks to each and every one of you for hanging out with us. Big thank you to my producer extraordinaire, Michael Santer, and also Stuart Kovacs. And we will be back mañana, everybody, at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Tonight, you got 2 games in the NBA, Cavs and Celtics. I think the Celtics will win this series at most in 5 games. And you have Mavericks and the Thunder, as we talked about. And as we turn our attention to the ice, my Rangers look to take a 3-0 series lead. You have a goaltending change in Carolina. And you have the Avalanche and the Stars, which was an awesome Game 1. Stars go up 3-0, and the Avalanche score 4 unanswered goals to win 4-3 in overtime. We'll see what Game 2 has in store. Avalanche and Stars, Colorado with the 1-0 series lead. We'll talk mañana on a Friday, everybody. Have a good night. We out. Bye-bye. Peace.